When their workforce is exploited and their food is taken from them by another species, these two quirky little insects who stand out from the crowd must venture outside their homes to discover a way to stop their oppressors, whether it be finding warrior bugs to fend them off, or by taking them to court. Very different ways to solve the same problem, but it worked, and these two are the best in the business. Flik from Bug's Life and Barry B. Benson from the Bee-Movie. According to the Discord poll, in a landslide victory, Barry B. Benson should take this fight with little to no difficulty. But let's see what J. Diamond Sonic has to say in his prediction.
Flik has displayed some incredible feats in an insect world, but Barry has displayed a lot of impressive feats in a large world environment in the human world. And because of that, Barry should take this dub. It should be easy for him, but he still should take the dub. So yeah, that's my predictions.
In terms of arsenal and abilities, Flik actually stomps by quite a bit here. Not off to a great start, predictioners, whatever the word is. But yeah, Flik's ahead here, not just because of his ant biology, but also what he carries with him. We're including the games here, even though they don't change the outcome. It's just for the sake of verses and making it more interesting. Also, it makes it easier to avoid copyright claims since I can avoid using movie footage until I actually need it. Yay. But enough stalling. In terms of biology, some species of ant can lift as much as 5,000 times their own body mass with super strength. There are some ants that are able to swim, and many ants can inject venom with their bites, which can be fatal to tons of different types of bugs, and even some humans depending on allergies. And if their bites aren't strong enough, some types of ants can even spray venom or cover themselves in it. And when they're not using venom, they're covering themselves in anti-venom to protect from outside toxic substances. And finally, similar to a bee's sting, some ants can even perform a kamikaze move where they explode their mandibles. Yuck. As for Flik specifically though, he can ground pound to squash larger bugs, and he has a wide arsenal of seeds that he can grow into plants for different uses. Platforms, bouncy mushrooms, dandelions for gliding, cannon plants for launching himself upwards, and he has berries for throwing, some of which can even home in on their targets. Meanwhile, honeybees don't really have any versus viable traits or hidden powers that you don't already know about. Stinger with venom, flight, super strong grip, and so on. And Barry specifically only has two things: a pollen sprayer to stun and startle enemies, and the ability to slow down time, which admittedly is a bit useful. But let's see if any of the YouTube comments have taken Flik's massive arsenal advantage into account. Fittingly, it's going to be pretty easy to get through speed quickly. They're actually about the same. Most people automatically assumed Barry would have this category in the bag because he can keep up with and react to cars. But here's the thing about that. Look at where these cars are. This isn't the interstate or freeway. No 60 mile per hour speeds here. In a place like this, these cars are doing 15 miles per hour, 20 tops, but even that may be pushing it since even a bicycle can outpace them. Now Flik, as far as travel speed goes, he definitely loses, but his reaction timing is way up there. He can react to moths, which are typically able to move at speeds of up to 12 miles per hour, and can react to other bugs that nearly outpace this bird. The exact species of this bird is a bit tricky to pinpoint, but these tiny birds usually average out to about 20 to 30 miles per hour for their top flying speed. Let's stick to the 20 though, considering the bugs did have a bit of a head start. So, Flik may not be as fast as Barry, but he can definitely see him coming. And for consistency's sake on how equal they are, they're both able to dodge raindrops, which can fall at speeds of up to 20 miles per hour, depending on how large and heavy they are. Finding out who wins the strength category was an interesting journey. Just like speed, people automatically assumed Barry would win because of his interactions in the human world. I mean, it makes sense, right? He was able to survive tons of abuse from athletic humans, he was able to beat this guy in a mini sword fight, and slap Vanessa so hard it made her head move. But in A Bug's Life, I found this quick feat that everyone overlooks where PT Flea bursts into flames. Taking the heat capacity of paper and the temperature at which a matchstick fire burns, over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, into account, and PT Flea, a character Flik obviously should scale to, is able to withstand 3,000 joules of energy. That's a street level feat, above human level. I mean, you don't even really need the calc, it just makes sense, right? Hold a paper-sized flame of 1,000 degrees up against someone's skin and that's a hospital trip for sure. But low-key, finding this out kind of made me panic a little. I was thinking, oh no, the popular vote character's gonna lose twice in a row. People are gonna think I'm just going against the crowd to be quirky and an individual and blah, 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 blah. So in desperation to find anything that would give Barry a fighting chance, I watched B-Movie one last time, and I found something. Not a feat, but a statement that can be used. It's just a brief moment where Barry is sharing his human adventures with Adam, and Adam, who is against humans, brings up how they've had to suffer abuse from power washers and M80s. These M80s being about as powerful as 1/8 of a stick of dynamite. This means Barry should be able to withstand about 125,000 joules of energy, over 25 times stronger than Flik. So yes, predictioners, you were correct. Barry does in fact stomp in strength, just not for the reason you thought. It's not over yet though, we still have one more category, but first check out these Discord predictions. And a video prediction from the soppiest crowd.
From what I hear, Flik is just way more intelligent. He might even be stronger being able to carry his inventions around, which seem to weigh a lot. But Barry should be way faster being able to keep up with moving cars. And Flik doesn't really have any speed feats to go off of from what I've heard. Though really, quick prediction here, Barry's probably going to take it because he can fly. I mean, like, he just picks Flik up. Flik might try to fight back. He might even be able to. Flik can tank quite a bit. But in the end, Barry's just going to drop him and he's probably going to die. That's how I see it going. Hope you enjoyed this quick prediction.
Before we announce a winner, let's see if there's any extra stuff that can turn the tides at the last minute. Well, our predictor was correct. Flik is very intelligent. Now, Barry B. Benson somehow graduated law school in like a day, but I do think Flik should still have the advantage in smarts thanks to his invention and leadership skills. And this lines up with actual ants, who are incredibly intelligent. In fact, they're the only creatures on Earth, besides us humans, who will actually farm other creatures. But for every advantage Flik has, Barry just has a much stronger one. Remember that kamikaze move we mentioned at the beginning of this video? You know, Barry stinging someone? Well, believe it or not, it's actually possible for Barry to survive stinging someone, and I'm not just referring to Adam. The act of stinging itself isn't what kills the bee. It's when the bee tries to pull out the stinger when it gets stuck and it breaks off, ripping out the bee's internal organs. Ugh. But when it's not used on the flesh of humans and other creatures that are much larger than the bee itself, it should actually have a pretty hard time getting stuck. Barry should be able to survive stinging tinier creatures, like, I don't know, ants? And with that final nail, or stinger in the coffin, I conclude that the winner of this fight will be Barry B. Benson. Now, Flik did have a superior biological arsenal, and he'd have no trouble keeping eyes on Barry as he zips about. But with Barry's overwhelming strength, overall superior mobility, and just a better kamikaze move, Flik would only be delaying the inevitable. And once you bring the video games into the mix, Barry should win even further as his time-slowing ability allows him to bring those raindrops to a near halt. Flik can't exactly throw berries or plant seeds if he's almost completely frozen in time. And that should be enough to convince you. Thank you all for predicting this episode, and be sure to predict the next one with comments, video responses, or voting in the Discord poll. So, we've done our normal fight with Crash Bandicoot vs. Stitch. We just had a silly meme fight with Barry B. Benson vs. Flik the Ant. Before we start just doing whatever, let's cover the final base with a super sick fight with super sick characters like Jinpachi Mishima from Tekken versus the Lich from Adventure Time.